welcome back to the channel. Got another recap for you guys. Love is Blind Season 2, Week 2, which is episode 6 through 9 recap. And we have a lot to unpack this week. We had a meetup with the in-laws, or shall I say future in-laws. That's only if they decide to get married. Will they, of course, be in-laws? We do have pretty much some conversations that was had that was totally disrespectful. And then we also had some personal conversations with families about their soon-to-be spouses. So before we unpack all of this, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications. If you like the video, smash the like button, and also feel free to drop a comment down in the comment section below. So we're going to break this down couple by couple, like I did in week 1 recap. And then we're going to, kind of talk about what's going on with the couple, the interactions with the family, leading up to our beginning of our first wedding. So let's break it down, starting with Deepti, or Deeps, and Shakes. Or shall I say Shake? One thing out of all of the couples, they do seem the most compatible. There is that sexual chemistry thing that's missing, but they're definitely trying to deal with that. But they have the most compatibility out of all the couples. They did meet with each other's parents. It went pretty well. And look like on both sides, they're very close with their families, and they do like their potential son-in-law or daughter-in-law. We did see a romantic evening where they had sushi, champagne, and massages. But, there's still this issue of feeling sexual attraction for Deeps. And Deeps can definitely tell that something just ain't right. During the boat bachelorette party, she, had a conversation with Ayanna, saying that she doesn't want to have to convince Shake of her worth. Now, here's the thing. I had a conversation about this subject, and this is something that they can probably work on together if Shake get out of his own way. Because, we see her as this beautiful woman who's vibrant. She has great personality and everything. But it's not up to us. He has to see it, right? At that time. And so for him to say, and I think he was speaking to his mom about the fact that, or I think he also was speaking to Shane about it. The sexual attraction he talked about with his mom. And then he also talked to Shane about the fact that if it feels like he's with his aunt. I don't know how he connect that with the auntie. That part didn't make sense. I can see if he said, oh, she feel more like a friend to me, or, she feel more like in the friend zone, that type of thing. But the aunt, I don't get that. So I kind of would like a little bit more explanation on why the aunt. But the thing is that, if he wants to build on sexual attraction with her, that's something that he has to deal with. I know that she is also waiting for him to make the moves, because one of the things that she did say this week is that she want her to come after her. So not only is she kind of hanging back, but he's hanging back because of sexual attraction. So that's one reason why they haven't even slept together as of yet. And it's so unfortunate because they're compatible on all check marks and even boxes that Shake said that he didn't even know existed, right? So I just hate that at this point, again, we got to wait till week 3. But at this point, he's still fighting with that, and I just think that hopefully that won't be a deal breaker and that's the end for these two. I hope not. So we'll have to continue to watch next week to see how that all pans out. But, I think if he can figure out a way to get over that part, get out of his own way, get out of his own head, and stop connecting her to his aunt, they could have a beautiful relationship together and build a family and, things like that. Plus, they have very supportive families on both sides. So we'll have to see what Shake decides to do, or if Deeps decide to say no on, I guess, decision day, wedding day, or whatever you want to call it. So let's talk about our next couple. So speaking of Ayanna, let's talk about Ayanna and Jared. So they are another couple that definitely have a ton of compatibility. They definitely have the blessings of their parents. I mean, his father was over the moon. He even, suggested to officiate the wedding. He's just excited. And I mean, it almost had me in tears. I'm like, oh my gosh. And Jared seems like he is 100%, 110% in. However, out of the two of them, Ayanna is the one that's worried. She still is, thinking about this whole second choice thing. And she's concerned about whether or not Jared can give up his weekend partying. He's definitely all in on the marriage, but she got a lot of doubts. And the thing is, I could say the biggest concern that I would think she should focus on at this point, because you're talking 2-3 weeks in now, right? He made his choice. You accept it. Why are we still stuck there at the second? It's about the right choice. And I said that in the previous video. I might have an unpopular opinion. Okay, fine. That's what content creating is about. However, he made the right choice for him. Unfortunately, the order of events is what it was, but it's over. Mal is in love with Sal. Jared is in love with Ayanna. He is pretty much all in. He's ready for the wedding day. He's 110% solid. At this point, when does she process this now to say, you know what, I need to move on from this? Yeah, the order of procession happened, but at the end of the day, he made the right choice. That's the thing. Because just say he did go with Mal, and that thing blew up in his face. Even though she might have been what people consider first choice, it was the wrong choice. So with her being the right choice, he realizes that. He understands that. He's prepared to spend the rest of his life with that choice. At what point do you let that go now? Because you didn't have to accept. If you felt that deeply about being a second choice, you could have walked away and said, no, I'm going to always be number one in somebody's eyes, or however she saw that. But she didn't. You accepted. On the flip side, I will say for Jared's part, he has to make the adjustments as becoming a married man, that those single lifestyle choices that he was making is not going to work in a marriage. Now, it's one thing if it's a Saturday night, Friday night, and he's going out and he asked his wife to go and she says no, then you might like, okay, maybe you need, this could be a date night for you guys. This could also be an opportunity for Ayanna to get to meet his friends. But I think he said this was a Tuesday night. Now, when he was single, yeah, you could do that. But you need to start spending time bonding. You got 2-3 weeks left, or at this point, a week left, before you make a decision to marry this person. So, I mean, you can call the friends and say, hey, I can't do this tonight. I'm married. You can balance. I'm not saying cut all your friends off completely, but there's got to be a balance where you balance out the life that you now have as a married partner. And I'm glad he recognized that, and it was brought to his attention. And he said, I am going to make the adjustments. Now, she's an actions person. So, yeah, he's telling her that, but she also want to see him make the changes in his life on not going out as much and staying out late hours. That's the other thing. So I hope they can get past that. If he can adjust from the single life to the married life, and she has to now come to terms that she also made a choice to accept his choosing back at the pods, they can both move on from this, actually. But they both have work to do. It's not all on him, and it's not all on her either. She has to now come to terms with the decisions they both made. And then he also have to make adjustments from becoming, being now a married person, soon to be married person, we hope. So let's move on to our next couple. Okay, so let's talk about Mal and Sal. So these two seem like they are definitely compatibly, perfectly matched. They did get a little bit of pushback from the family. We didn't get to see Mallory parents show up to meet Sal, and her sister kind of expressed some major hesitancy toward this whole process. Sal is still, really taking Mallory to a whole nother level and sweeping her off her feet. That was a absolutely awesome serenade that he did for her. And I'm in the Chicagoland area, and I think I know the venue that they were at, and that venue is absolutely gorgeous. So when I saw it, I was like, they picked the perfect spot for that. But he made all these rhymes up about her being like Beyonce and have this romantic picnic. Mal even calls Sal her soulmate when they had their little bachelorette party. So I don't really see any issues. There was a conversation that was had by Sal to Jared, him addressing the whole gold ring situation. And Jared, he put it out there, I didn't mean any harm by it. I just knew what you wanted, and we had that conversation about it. It was no shade toward you or anything like that. And he said, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm not trying to get in the way of your relationship. Me and Ayanna is good. And pretty much Sal backed off. He was like, okay, cool. So hopefully that conversation kind of put a little bit of closure on any insecurities that was left over in regards to the whole Jared situation that we saw at the honeymoon in week 1. But, she was also sad about the fact that, when she went dress shopping, that her mom couldn't be there for that either. So I don't know if something, actually happened. It was a COVID year. That was the first year of COVID when they filmed this in 2020. Or whether, maybe they didn't like the process. I don't know. I guess we'll get more details about that after the fact. Like I said, I usually like to know what's going on after the season is over. So we'll probably get some more deets on that. But other than that, I really don't see any major issues with these two. As long as he don't let those insecurities, rise up, and this whole thing with Jared is behind him, they should be absolutely fine. So I see good things for these two, but we'll definitely have to wait till next week to see, whether or not they decide to go ahead and get married. So let's move on to our next couple. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about Natalie and Shane. To me, honestly, and I can't call anybody else's connection, but it seems like they have a connection. Do I think that they look compatible? I'm not sure, but somehow they're still together and they're still in love. And, they're definitely still talking about getting married. Now, one thing about this situation was Natalie's parents. Her mom was not feeling it. Her attitude toward the process, because I don't think Natalie even told her parents that she was going to do the show and the experiment. And she was not here for it. So much so that when she tried to show her mom the ring, she slapped her hand. And I was like, yikes. But her father on the opposing side was like, give him a chance. And, he had a different take on it. He was definitely open to the whole thing. Then we saw Shane come in and have a conversation, and I just think that the mom had to warm up to him. I mean, all this has just blindsided her because Natalie gave them no heads up of what she was doing. All she knows, she moved into this new apartment because they was like, what are you doing here? She was like, I live here. And that was the apartment that her and Shane had decided to get together. And the mom was like, you moved an apartment and you telling me you're engaged and you telling me you get married in 2 weeks? Yeah, she was blindsided. But she seemed a little bit more relaxed when they were at the dress fitting. I mean, she was practically in tears when she saw that second dress that Natalie had on when she was trying on wedding gowns. So maybe she's softening up to it. A lot of moms enjoy this experience once they get their heads wrapped around it. But I will say the conversations that Shane had was pretty darn interesting and something that went down outside of the show. So apparently now Shayna, who has broken up with Kyle, which we kind of do need to touch on that whole situation too, she decides that she wants to have a conversation with Natalie over the phone saying, hey, if things don't work out, I can hook you up with somebody awesome, because Shayna wants Shane. And then, of course, Natalie is going to come back and tell Shane about it. So Shane seeing Shauna at the beach party, they had a conversation about it. And Shayna decides to play the victim and basically said, oh, she took it out of context. I can't believe she said that. Do you want me to call her out? And just like Shane said, no, we ain't calling nobody out. Bottom line is, I'm staying with Natalie. I love her. She's the person I choose to be with. But then we also kind of had Shane kind of question Natalie about, well, why would Shayna make that up? Why would she say things like that? And I'm like, dude, really? This ain't The Bachelor, because The Bachelor do that type of stuff. They have somebody make up a fake story about one of the other contestants, and then they tell them, oh, are you here for the right reasons? No. Shayna know exactly what she's doing. She's trying to throw a monkey wrench into their relationship and seeds of doubt, which, of course, is going to usually, not all, unless you have a really strong foundation in your relationship, is going to, kind of shake the foundation. Because now you're going to get to arguing about what she said versus he said and this and that. And ain't nobody got time for that. So Shayna knew exactly what she was doing. Thank God it didn't take a life of its own. And from what we saw with Shane and Natalie, they're moving forward. And Shayna is moving along. So we got to talk about her and her family and the breakup with Kyle. So they actually, before breaking up and before that whole conversation with Shane, Kyle met with her family. And the biggest issue in this whole conversation was about his faith. Because it seems that, with their family, faith is extremely important. And it didn't sit well too much with the family, especially her mother, that he did not believe God existed or believe in God. I don't want to misquote, but it was something in that arena. And because of that, here's the thing. Shayna was not interested in him. That finally came out in a conversation that they had at the Chicago River. I know that area, by Marina City. But that conversation that they had, she pretty much put it out on the table that, I had doubts. I shouldn't have been with you. I shouldn't have accepted. Here's your ring. Because remember, Kyle gave her his mother's ring. And she was wearing it on her thumb because it didn't fit her ring finger that the wedding ring normally is applied to. But like he said, you shouldn't have never said yes. You should have just walked away. You knew Shane was off the table. He told you he was off the table. And then you decided to say yes out of consolation. Like, okay, fine. You knew your connection with Kyle wasn't 100%. Plus, one of your biggest core values is your faith. This man told you straight up in the pod that he is not into faith like you are. And you still roll with it. you take this man goes to your family and they're looking and giving him the side eye like, really, Shayna? And so he was like, well, I'm open to it and maybe I can do this. And I'm like, no, if you're not into it, don't fake it. Especially when it comes to faith, because it's going to blow up in your face. So, I mean, this was a catastrophe waiting to happen. Number one, she wasn't really into him. Number two, he shouldn't have signed up for this whole thing after hearing how she was into her faith, and neither should she, knowing that he wasn't into the level of faith that she's into, right? So it's just so unfortunate. But for somebody that's so into her faith, the behavior that she displayed at that beach party with trying to undermine Natalie and Shane's relationship, and then want to, make it like, oh, if you're not asking the right questions in your relationship, then your relationship is not built on it. I mean, she was trying to throw darts from every angle to poke holes in Natalie and Shane's relationship. And that's not faith-like either. Now, I mean, I don't want to sound overly self-righteous or anything, but it's like, if you're going to, utilize your faith as a core value, you got to live by it too. So, I'm just saying. Let's move on to our final couple. Okay, so we got Danielle and Nick. And you talking about an emotional roller coaster with these two. There are so many highs and so many lows. And when they're high, they're definitely high. And when they're low, oh yeah, they're low. They pretty much had arguments about everything from the parents' meet and greets to, whatever. I mean, it was always something. The problem with this whole situation is, and she talked a little bit about it on her Instagram page this week, about mental health awareness and building up her insecurity and feeling good about herself. So she is definitely acknowledging that in live, I would say in live time, right as we speak and out as we watch the show. The problem is Nick really don't know how to handle this. And it's like, at this point from when they film, every time he says something, she creates a whole nother narrative in her head. And then when that narrative is negative that she created, she makes him responsible for it, even though it wasn't the context that he put it in. Moving like that, you're going to be walking on eggshells. That man is going to be, if hopefully, it didn't continue like that, because, we're coming up on next week. But every time she listens to him, she listens not to understand. She listens to react, and she reacts on the narrative that she creates in her head. And it's usually something that he simply said or reflected on, and she takes it straight negative. I don't know how these two are going to work. He's trying his best to be so understanding, so accommodating, but her insecurities right now is off the charts. And he don't know what to say. And it went all the way up to right before the day of the wedding. I mean, it started at the honeymoon, and it's been going on throughout the process, and now even up to the night before. And that's got to be stressful, because you don't know what you're going to say to set a person off who's in that state of mind. I mean, I gave an example yesterday when talking to someone saying, hey, I would like chicken. And the person said, well, I don't like chicken. I like steak. And then you turn around and say, why you don't like chicken? Oh, I'm a chicken eater. So does that mean that you don't like me either? And it's like, where did you get that from? That's the type of process and how she tends to normally like to do things. I'm not saying she made that specific example, but he could say something totally benign and she will react to it in a negative way, add whatever her processes to it that he did not even reflect or say to her, and then make him responsible for the narrative that she created in her own head. There's no way you can be in a relationship like that without walking on eggshells. So I don't know. We did get to see her make it up to her wedding day. The last episode 9 was with the two of them standing at the altar, and between him and the officiant busting out in sweats. I mean, it must have been a hot day, or he was extremely nervous, because the man was sweating bullets. I mean, he was sweating like crazy. So, hopefully, I don't know. I don't know about these two. Unless she can, fix her insecurities, and then he learns how to, kind of communicate in a way that she understands, which probably is going to be hard. I don't know if these two are going to work, but we'll see if they say yes next week. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in the finale, week 3. Talk to you soon. Bye.